Next team can be reasonably easily guessed from Tommy's cap that we are reviewing in this time. So Boston Bruins, team that won Eastern Conference last season during the regular season, but were not surprisingly able to pull a long run for the playoffs. How about this time? How the team that is usually very good in playoffs and has been made for playoffs, but has still been able to provide steady results in a regular season. How you are reviewing it for this season?
Boston is always really strong team. It's they've been contenders for a long time now. They won the Stanley Cup 10 years ago. They've since been in the finals twice, losing both times, but they've always been competitive. And well, losing in the playoffs is always such a small margins. And now they've faced the teams that have been high flying at the time. So can't really fault anything that Boston has done. So they are again big contenders. Of course, now the simulations put them third in the East, which is Eastern Division, which is a bit surprising. The bookmakers favor them to be the best, but when looking a little bit detailed to the simulations, the top three teams in the East are within 2 points. So it's really a coin toss which team is going to take the lead and the rest of the three playoff spots. Of course, last season, Bruins took the division, the whole conference, so they were again going to be contending. But then Tampa Bay was better. They had some issues in the bubble, so this time around, I think the fast-paced, a little bit shorter season will be a good thing for the Bruins, and now they might do what is expected of them. But how have we been doing with our simulations with the Boston Bruins?
For those individual game projections, we have been reasonably well aligned with the performance. So if you would bet Boston home, away, expected value, positive, money line, whatever, you have been able to make some profits. So we have been reasonably accurate there. A few interesting topics is that there hasn't been a lot to bet, especially on home games, because there's only 24% of the home games have some positive expected value for Bruins. So odds makers have had quite low odds, and then even our numbers have been not so high either. But whenever there has been some value in those home games, we have been over 65% correct. So that has been quite a steady performance. Like we have discussed with some other teams, this back-to-back home game has not been very, very good for them. And Boston is similar kind of case that when their standard or win percentage for all games at home is almost 64, but back-to-back home games win percentage is 37.5. So it would be important to check those games when they are playing and check if the odds are aligned there and how our simulations will show some value for those games. But this new alignment, it brings a few new teams to the Boston's schedule. How well they are matched with those?
Well, we've seen in the past that the best games in the East have usually been between the Capitals, Flyers, Penguins, Boston. They are very evenly matched teams. There is a lot of firepower in all of those teams. So now Bruins get to face Capitals and Flyers and Penguins a little bit more in the same division. So there is also very good building blocks for pretty feisty rivalries there. We'll see Philly against Boston once again for at least some 7 times. So very interesting there. Bruins are, of course, like we established earlier, made for playoffs. They are very tough team to play against. Their defense is really good, goaltenders, and the whole system is pretty much built on winning playoff games. So it will be a tough one for the others to beat Boston, but some changes in the defense this season, so we'll see how it goes with the young guns stepping up in there as well. How does it look like against these divisional rivals in the statistical point of view?
Like you said, the top 3 teams in this Mass Mutual Eastern Division are quite equally aligned, and it might be one reason that simulations don't like Boston so much is that those 2 other teams, Washington and Philadelphia, have been beating Boston here and there. So Washington has faced Boston 10 times during the last 3 seasons, and out of 10 games, Boston have been able to win only 2. And bit similar with Philadelphia, 10 games, and Boston have been able to win only 4. So when we compare all the other teams in division, Boston have win most of the games, with some teams like, for example, New York Islanders. Out of 9 games, Boston have won 8 against Buffalo. Also, win percentage is almost 65. So I think their steady performance with a bit lower level team would bring a lot of points. But if they struggle against Washington and Philadelphia, they may not be the number 1 in this division.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense because surprisingly, those 2 teams are then above them in the simulation. So yeah, that explains it pretty much. But like I said before, the difference is really, really small. So most of the games, most of the simulations have been very 50-50. And then really small things can change the course of the season, actually, because every game counts now. Because if you lose points to your direct rival. So it'll be also something to look into, is that every game is actually very important now in this short season. Boston now has the team pretty much similar to last season. Couple of major changes, of course. Geno Chara left to Washington Capitals, surprisingly. Also, Torrey Krug already left earlier. So there is 2 players missing now in the defense. Charlie McAvoy, of course, stepping up. It's his time now. And a couple of younger guns also have chance to prove that they are worth their money. Bruce Cassidy, as a head coach, is really good in organizing his defense. Of course, he has help with from his coaching staff, but defense has never been an issue for Bruins, and now they get Tuukka Rask back again. Had to leave the bubble last season during the playoffs because of family matters. So he's back and motivated. He's also reaching or closing in on his prime, or maybe even a little bit past it. So he has his last chances to win the cup once again. In Boston offense, of course, the top line, Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak is one of the best ones in the league for sure. Pasternak will be out for a while due to an injury, but they have adequate cover there for that time. So Boston will be competitive from early on. The depth is not maybe as good as the top line, but like we have been speaking, Boston is created in a way that every line can contribute, and every line plays defense and offense the same way. So Jake DeBrusk and David Krejci, Charlie Coyle will bring in the necessary production for sure. So Bruins should be competitive once again. How about our season simulations in the past? Have we been able to stick with the Bruins in their success?
It hasn't been so great accuracy as in individual games, but for example, last season the line was 105 points. We predicted 106 points, so 5.5 points over the line. Out of 70 games, they produced 100 points. So with reasonably high probability, I would say that it would be over if the season would played to the 82 games. Then season ago, Boston performing same level as earlier. They were second in Western Conference and scored 107 points. Our prediction wasn't so high. We predicted them to be fifth and under 102.5. And then 3 years ago, then Boston was not maybe the preseason favorite there, but they overperformed their whole season from the beginning. Were again second in Eastern Conference and clearly over the line that we predicted to be under. So recently we have been better, and hopefully this trend will continue. Is there any good bets now available or good odds? You mentioned that Boston is, from a bookmaker's point of view, number one team to win the division, so not so great value there, but how about Stanley Cup?
Yeah, the Stanley Cup odds, Boston is fourth overall in those odds, so there is plus 1,300 available. It's pretty much accurate, I'd say. Of course, according to the simulations, it's a little bit too much actually. So there is not that much value for a bettor who is looking for that sort of stuff. But if you want to make a safe bet or a more likely bet to hit the goal, Boston would be a good big pick. They are always contending, and they can still make some changes to their roster if needed. If it looks like that the defense is too shallow, or if it looks like they need secondary scoring, they do have the pieces to make some trades as well. So Boston is always competitive, but like I said, they are pretty well valued by the odds makers. So I don't see there any special value for a bettor.
Let's see what kind of total line will come before the season starts, and then we can check how the simulations will match those numbers.
Yeah, let's do that. And also good to remember that the Eastern Division is extremely even, so it could be that the point totals of all the teams will remain quite low.
And we'll see the results in May.
That will do.